Before greengrocers and suburban lawn culture, American gardens weren't just used for grilling and chilling. Being seen as just a symbol of status, they were filled with herbs, vegetables, and gardening traditions passed down through generations. Full of life, from colonial survival plots to Gilded Age extravagance, numerous garden features, once integral to our everyday life, have been lost to time. But even now, echoes remain in today's sustainable gardening revival. So, join us as we dig into 25 forgotten gardening features that were once a staple of American life. Number 25. Cloche Covers. A bell-shaped dome dated as far back as 19th century France. Cloche covers are protective structures used to shield vegetables from the elements or to simulate a mini greenhouse environment. They are usually made of transparent plastic or glass and can be used individually or to cover entire rows of plants. They shimmer like sun-kissed orbs, holding a secret garden within. Using cloche covers can provide your seedlings with a calmer, warmer environment in which to mature. Unfortunately, their popularity waned over time with the introduction of commercial roll covers. Nevertheless, the benefits of reviving this classic gardening feature far outweigh the drawbacks. So whether you're a seedling newbie or a green-thumbed pro, cloches can be your cheeky sidekick towards gardening glory. Number 24. Wishing wells. You might remember wishing wells from old stories or movies. They are structures, often resembling a well or sometimes a fountain, where people throw coins while making a wish. This old practice is rooted in cultural beliefs about water and its power to bring life, good luck, and even grant wishes. However, beyond that, wishing wells add a delightful vintage touch to your garden space. They can become a cozy centerpiece, just perfect for entertaining or relaxing. A well-placed wishing well can evoke a nostalgic feeling without occupying much space in the actual garden. It's a simple way to add character, a classic feature that needs to make a return to American gardens. Number 23. Dooryard Gardens. Picture this, a lovely, welcoming, picturesque garden snuggled right up against your front door. That is a dooryard garden. It is a type of garden traditionally located near the front door of your home, often serving as a focal point for both aesthetic and utilitarian purposes. In fact, during colonial times, it served as a practical space for growing vegetables, herbs, and flowers, as well as a venue for social interaction and various household tasks. Small enclosed plots packed with medicinal plants like feverfew or comfrey, culinary herbs, and even compact vegetables like turnips and beans. When supermarkets took over, the need for self-sufficiency provided by this beautiful garden feature was eliminated. Yet, even today, there is still a modern echo of this age-old practice within container gardens on urban balconies. Number 22. Arbors with climbing roses. You can bring even more charm to your garden with an arbor wrapped in climbing roses. These are structures made of metal or wood that are designed to support the growth of climbing rose plants, creating a decorative archway or pathway. Climbing roses come in varieties like Cecile Brunner, Eden Rose, and Don Juan, so you can easily find one that suits your garden style. What makes arbors even more special is that they allow you to utilize vertical space in your garden, meaning you can do even more planting. While it is still widely enjoyed, the trend towards more modern, compact, and disease-resistant roses has led to a decline in its popularity. Number 21. Backyard Grape Arbor. Another arbor worth exploring is a grape arbor. There was a time when a wooden arbor filled with thick, twisting grapevines was a staple in the American backyard. By summer, these arbors were brimming with juicy fruits, all ripe and perfect for fresh eating, juicing, and even winemaking. Some families couldn't afford to get the expensive stuff, so they settled for making their own. These grape arbors attracted pollinators, provided natural shade, and an enchanting look to the garden. For old-school gardeners, a well-built grape arbor was a thing of pride. Unfortunately, though, somewhere along the line, store-bought grapes became prevalent. These twisting grapevines are now replaced with fences and flower beds. We highly recommend bringing this feature back to your garden. We promise you won't regret it. Number 20. Outhouse Gardens. An outhouse garden, also known as a summer house, is a cozy little structure in your backyard, nestled among herbs, flowers, and vegetables. While that sounds like your basic home garden, here's the twist. It's separate, enclosed, and even offers an additional living space or storage. Think of it as the shed's charming cousin, a space for relaxation, art, yoga, and, of course, gardening. Outhouse gardens were designed to serve practical and aesthetic purposes. A space for you alone that also provides food and beautifies your entire home. They were once quite popular thanks to the lack of indoor plumbing and reliance on pit latrines. So, they did great at masking the odors. However, as indoor plumbing and sewage systems became prevalent, outhouse gardens naturally faded away. You can still recreate this multi-purpose classic garden feature in your home today. Everyone needs their own private space sometimes. Number 19. Herb spirals. With so many essential herbs that every chef relies on, carving out enough garden space can be tricky, but a herb spiral offers a smart, space-saving solution. Herb spirals are a well-known element in permaculture design, which prioritizes creating self-sufficient and sustainable ecosystems. It is a type of raised garden bed, typically built in a spiral shape, designed just for growing herbs. They create a range of microclimates within the same space by utilizing the spiral's effects of gravity on water drainage and height. Thanks to this, a diverse range of herbs with varying moisture and light requirements can survive in a single compact space. Furthermore, using old stones and bricks to create your spiral adds a rustic look and helps retain heat for your plants. Practical and charming, two essential characteristics in any American garden. Number 18. Root cellar. Root cellars, where Mother Nature's pantry meets underground magic. Think of it as a cozy earth hideaway for your vegetables. They are structures, usually underground, primarily used for storing vegetables, fruits, and other produce before refrigerators came as standard, taking full advantage of the naturally stable and cool temperatures found beneath the Earth's surface. They were initially associated with storing root vegetables, but can also be used for a variety of foods, extending their shelf life for weeks or even months. Root cellars always maintain a cool, dark, and humid environment, which is ideal for preserving many types of produce. But with the decline of basements in modern home design, root cellars slowly faded into history. These days, though, off-grid enthusiasts and people looking to adopt a more rustic way of living are bringing this classic garden feature back, and you could too. Number 17. Living fences. Living fences, also known as green fences or hedgerows, are barriers just like any other fence, created by planting rows of closely spaced shrubs or trees, forming a dense and natural boundary. These living fences serve as alternatives to traditional fences, providing various benefits beyond mere property demarcation. For one, they can effectively keep livestock or other critters out of gardens, crop fields, or other designated areas. Additionally, they can act as windbreaks, protecting your vegetables and soil from strong winds and lowering soil erosion. Their benefits were nearly limitless in gardens back then. However, their popularity declined rather quickly thanks to the introduction of modern fencing. If you have the time, one easy way to transform your garden into a greener, fresher paradise is to replace those man-made fences with natural living ones. Number 16. Freestanding Birdbaths. To make your garden even more charming and make it a lot more welcoming to nature, you can easily add a freestanding birdbath. What better way to elevate your garden environment than by filling it with magnificent birdsong? These birdbaths are designed to be placed directly on the ground or even on a pedestal without needing to be attached to a wall or another structure. They're always made from durable, weatherproof materials and feature a shallow bowl to provide an inviting space for birds to bathe and drink. They can also come in a variety of designs, from basic shallow bowls to more elaborate pedestal designs. Freestanding bird baths have fallen out of favor in many American gardens today, largely due to their upkeep demands, stagnant water issues, and the shift toward more naturalistic, low-maintenance landscaping. Still, for those willing to put in a little effort, the reward is more than worth it. Few things match the simple joy of watching birds flutter, bathe, and bring life to your garden as you sit back, relax, and soak in the serenity. Number 15. Cold frames. Before greenhouses became a staple in American gardens, the older generation had an even simpler way of protecting plants: cold frames. These are miniature, low-to-the-ground, box-like structures, often made out of old window panes and wood. They're used to protect vegetables from harsh weather conditions and extend the growing season. The resourcefulness of cold frames was fully on display, as they are a simple structure, often crafted out of scrap materials. They rely on solar energy to trap heat inside, creating a microclimate for crops. Thanks to this, gardeners could plant seeds earlier in the spring and keep plants growing well into the winter months. Their use in American gardens, however, has declined due to the introduction of more versatile alternatives, such as greenhouses and the increased accessibility of store-bought farm produce in supermarkets. Number 14. The Rhubarb Patch. Every garden back then made sure to have one of these, the Rhubarb Patch. Nestled away in some hidden corner of the garden or fence line, these hardy, tough, perennial root vegetables came back year after year, regardless of the amount of neglect they'd faced prior. These guys were quite integral for families then, thanks to their edible, thick, tart stalks regularly used in jams, pies, and sauces. Unfortunately, people now lack the patience to establish and grow them today. And with sweeter shop-bought alternatives becoming more accessible, came with it the decline of rhubarb's popularity. Its patches became a thing of a simpler time. But it's never too late to incorporate that old-school flavor into your desserts, and a simple rhubarb patch will make sure of that all year round. Number 13. Companion planting. Before the advent of chemical fertilizers and pesticides, gardeners relied on a gardening practice known as companion planting. The idea of this much simpler gardening strategy was to group different types of crops in a garden to create a synergistic, mutually beneficial relationship. In other words, planting certain crops together can support healthier growth for both. Corn, thanks to its long stalk, provides a natural trellis for the beans to climb, while the beans fix nitrogen in the soil. Squash provides ground cover to suppress weeds. These three were often referred to as the three sisters. Carrot and onions would fight off each other's flies, the perfect pest-fighting duo. Marigolds keep bugs away from tomatoes, and basil enhances the flavor of tomatoes. This was knowledge passed down through generations that actually worked. When commercial farming and mass production took over, this backyard gardening wisdom just faded away. This method might be old-fashioned, but it's never been out of style, and it deserves a comeback. Number 12. The Backyard Bean Teepee. Long before jungle gyms and tree houses, kids looked forward to something even better: a bean teepee. Using just a couple of tall sticks or bamboo poles tied together at the top and runner beans planted at the base, you could create a lovely bean teepee in the backyard. This simple structure wasn't only practical, providing a great harvest of green beans all season long, they also became a rustic, lovely living hideaway by midsummer. Children loved playing right underneath it, with the vines climbing the poles, covering the teepee with bright green leaves and dangling bean pods. Parents loved it as well because it kept the kids together, entertained and engaged with the beauty of nature all around them. Unfortunately, as home gardening dwindled and backyards filled with plastic instead of petals, the bean teepee, once a childhood refuge beneath green vines, faded like a whisper in the wind. If you have kids of your own and you're trying to get them engaged a little bit more with nature, this is a great way to start. Number 11. Victory Gardens. How about a classic, truly American garden feature that takes us all the way back to World War II? Victory Gardens, also referred to as war gardens, were vegetable plots planted to increase food yields during the war and reduce pressures on commercial food supplies. During World War II, up to 20 million families supplied 40% of U.S. produce. These patriotic plots converted backyards into cabbage battlefields. They represented a way for citizens to actively participate in the war. As you'd expect, with post-war prosperity and the rise of processed foods, victory gardens began to dwindle in numbers. Slowly, people are rediscovering the need to grow their own food as we try to bounce back from unsustainable mass farming and realize the benefits of homegrown organic produce. Number 10. The asparagus bed. One plant that was a staple in almost every American household was the asparagus. It provided families with all the nutritional benefits they needed. However, asparagus isn't like other vegetables where you'd plant it this year and harvest it the next. It usually takes about 3 years to fully mature, but once it does, it could last decades. So, families created asparagus beds as a long-term investment. With the right preparation and proper care, these beds could be feeding your family for the next 30 years. In fact, there are some old gardens, well over 50 years old, that still grow fresh spears every spring. Today, though, no one has the patience, but now you know how much this garden feature will be the gift that keeps on giving. It'll definitely be a worthy investment. Number 9. Wild meadow lawns. There was a time when having a mini meadow in your backyard was actually a prevalent garden feature. Meadow lawns are areas of land purposefully left to run wild, mimicking natural meadows by incorporating a blend of grasses and wildflowers, rather than the traditional uniform lawn we're all now accustomed to now. Besides looking absolutely charming, they actively increased biodiversity, reduced maintenance, and supported the local wildlife. Plus, they're often adapted to local conditions and can be quite resilient to climate change and harsh weather compared to traditional lawns. The marketing of monoculture turf grass and herbicides took this beautiful and essential habitat away from our backyards. Today, these wild meadows are making a quiet comeback with the introduction of movements like No Mow May and more sustainable landscaping practices, such as bee lawns. Number 8. Night blooming gardens. Still on beautiful classic garden features, there are these. Night blooming gardens, also referred to as moon gardens. These, as you'd figured out by their name, are typically gardens designed to be enjoyed under the moonlight, featuring plants that bloom or release their fragrance mainly at night. Often, these gardens prioritize light-colored flowers such as white or pale shades which reflect the moonlight, making them visible in the dark. In the past, they were common in home gardens as a great way to extend garden enjoyment well into the evening hours and also attract nocturnal pollinators, such as bats and moths. Even Victorians planted moonflowers, evening primrose, tuberose, and night-scented stock to enjoy in the dark. Unfortunately, this age-old practice was lost to time due to electric lighting shifting evening activities indoors, light pollution, which disrupts the natural ambiance of night gardens and the plant's higher maintenance. If you're like me, though, and love sitting out in the yard after hours, enjoying gazing at the night sky, then what better way to enhance this experience than with a rich, sweet, exotic aroma coming from your garden? Number 7. The Buried Claypot. This is a rather ancient and rare gardening feature that's been making a bit of a resurgence recently. Additionally, it popped up in old American homesteads, especially in the Southwest. A buried clay pot, also known as an olla, is an ancient irrigation practice in which unglazed clay pots are partially buried in the soil and filled with water. The porous nature of the clay ensures water seeps out slowly into the surrounding soil, providing an efficient and consistent source of moisture to plant roots. This is an irrigation technique as old as time, with evidence even suggesting its use in China over 2,000 years ago. Don't let this fool you, though. Regardless of its age, this irrigation method remains efficient in water delivery before drip irrigation was a thing and is quite adaptable, which explains its resurgence. Organizations like the state's Master Gardening Program in New Mexico are actively promoting its use. Some things even time can't change. Number 6. The Stink Bucket. The Stink Bucket is gardening's most nose-wrinkling recycling project. It is a low-tech DIY fermentation station. A stink bucket refers to a container, often a bucket, used to create homemade liquid fertilizer by fermenting organic matter, mostly weeds, garden waste, and even fish scraps. The reason this method is called stinky shouldn't be difficult to figure out. The decomposition process produces a strong, unpleasant odor. To create, just toss grass clippings, garden weeds, or simple plant scraps into a bucket of water. Put the lid on and allow the anaerobic microbes to take over. Then, finally, strain out the liquid. The result? A potent, awful-smelling liquid fertilizer packed with nutrients your crops need. It was resourceful, and boy did it work. Now, gardeners are too squeamish, and stores offer odorless fertilizers, which are preferred. But real old-school green-thumbed pros know that the infamous stink buckets turn your garden garbage into black magic plant fuel. You just have to get past the smell. Number 5. Onion braids. This is a traditional method of storing onions by stringing their dried stems together. After harvest, gardeners would hang them in cool, dry places like sheds, basements, root cellars, or even kitchen pantries. This technique not only allows for proper air circulation, therefore helping the onions to dry and store well over time, but also creates a rustic and beautiful display. Each twist of the onion braid told the story of a season well spent, with the garden giving generously once more. This method of storage was applied to garlic as well. Unfortunately, this work of art is no longer recognized and utilized except by heirloom gardeners and homesteaders. You may instead recognize the orange mesh bags used in stores today. Next time you go to an old farmhouse, look out for one of these and tell me it doesn't look like a quiet celebration of gardening success. Number 4. The Tomato Parade. Not to be confused with the Spanish festival where people engage in massive tomato fights, here's something you probably didn't know about gardening in the past. It wasn't solely about what you grew, but rather what you could share. And that was where the tomato parades came in. By August, gardens were overflowing with ripening tomatoes, but you didn't let the extras rot in your kitchen and go to waste. Folks would pack them up and bring them to the neighbors. They all enjoyed each other's harvest. People would go as far as trading food supplies. This approach helped diversify the diet, particularly when garden space was too limited to grow every desired crop. These days, it's common to share snapshots of our harvests on social media or not even share them at all. Back then, the joy was in feeding your neighborhood right from your own backyard. That kind of love was the backbone of communities and easily one of the most wholesome gardening traditions that needs to return. Number 3. Clothespin herb hanger. For quite some time, when herbs like rosemary, oregano, and thyme were ready to be stored for future use, people would bundle them and hang them upside down from the rafters, clipped with old-school clothespins. This method allows for good air circulation and helps preserve the herb's color and flavor. But that's not all. The smells were terrific. The bundles would slowly dry over weeks and then were put into jars to be reused for teas and stews. These herbs also doubled as a form of decor, draping down like woodland chandeliers. These days, it's easy to grab tidy bundles of herbs from the supermarket shelf. But there's a kind of magic in unlocking rich, vibrant flavors in your cooking with herbs grown just steps from your own back door. Number 2. The Strawberry Patch. If you've ever been to an old garden, odds are you've come across a tiny, sun-warmed patch where strawberries would grow. Unlike store-bought strawberries, which are grown for shelf life and size, your homegrown strawberries were smaller, juicier, and packed a real sweetness. The only problem, though, is that strawberries require a bit of patience. The plants take up to a year to establish before they begin producing. Once they do, they are near unstoppable. They spread rapidly, sending out runners to create new plants. This was practically a glitch for endless strawberries, and all it took was a little patience. Today, people would rather buy overpriced berries from the supermarket. Why do that when a single strawberry patch can provide fruits for years? Number 1. Survival Kitchen Gardens. Survival kitchen gardens, also known as prepper gardens, are vegetable gardens created to provide a substantial portion or even the majority of a family's food needs, especially during periods of self-sufficiency and potential hardship. These gardens prioritize growing a variety of vegetables that are calorie-dense, easy to store, and most importantly, provide essential nutrients. Survival gardens typically feature a diverse array of vegetables, herbs, and fruits that can be eaten fresh or stored for later use. Priority is also given to crops that can be preserved for extended periods, like potatoes, garlic, onions, squash, and root vegetables. These no-frills plots would often hug cabin doors for easy reach. As food became more readily available and affordable, the need for home food production was eliminated, and with that, kitchen gardens were lost to time. Nevertheless, homestead gardens in rural communities are just a modern echo of this lost practice. Believe it or not, but self-sufficiency will always be important, and that's why this tradition will never die out. These timeless gardening traditions don't have to be lost. Which one will you bring back to life in your own garden? Subscribe if you learned something new today, and see you in the next video.